There you are.
Hi.
Okay, so what can you tell me about A Thorn in Every Heart?
Like from a blurb
Yeah,
standpoint, or
yeah,
just
both.
okay. So it is a Beauty and the Beast meets Anastasia retelling. I feel like the word retelling is a little loose. It's actually like an AU in the same
Oh,
world, if that
okay.
makes any
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So the idea is that Belle, like the Disney Belle, goes to this place and has like mostly the same experience as in the book, but it's like, or I'm sorry, as in the movie, but it's darker.
Sure.
And then she comes home at the part where like Maurice is sick, so she leaves and she doesn't go back.
Okay.
And so she
That's where it
writes this,
ends.
yeah, and writes like a fantasy novel essentially about it that is like kind of like a loosely, it's just supposed to be like a romantasy book, like like a famous one. She writes this book about it. Her life changes because she becomes this famous author, right? She marries like the Gaston character. They have a daughter, and the main character is that's her
Okay.
mother. So she's the granddaughter, but like only through the female line,
Got
right?
it. Okay.
And so the granddaughter like grows up reading the book with her grandmother, who's like kind of a loon, but like also pretty famous. But even though she's like famous, she refuses to like leave like the weird town that she grew up in, and like
Sure.
so she's like eccentric. And then the granddaughter is like 29 years old. She's married to this like asshole. Her life is like sort of falling apart, and she goes to like help her grandmother and finds out that this whole thing was real, and she gets like transported to this world where then it becomes kind of an Anastasia retelling, but up until that point it's just an AU.
Okay. I love that. I love that like
Thank you.
combination. How did you come up with that like combination of like not really retellings but like reimaginings?
I don't know. I mean, like, I started writing this about 2 years ago.
Okay.
So in the timeline of that, I had just finished the first Wild Fae book, and I was working on the second one. And actually, maybe it was even a little bit before that. Probably had not started the second one, and I was having like a hard time, like, kind of coming up with it. And so this has gone through like several iterations. Like in the very first iteration of this book, it was mostly just Beauty and the Beast
Hmm.
with like other, like, but in the AU. And then I ended up watching Anastasia again, which I hadn't seen in like 20 years. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, well, that's what I mean, and so it kind of built from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Honestly, if are any of the characters based on Dimitri? Because like
Yes. So the
excellent.
main guy in this book, his name is Damon.
Sure.
But something to know about me is if you've ever read any of my books, the characters probably at one point had a different name. I name somebody and then I rename them, and I usually rename them again. So this character was originally just Dimitri because I like didn't really
You
know what to call
were
him.
like, we're gonna just stick with that.
Yeah,
Doesn't hurt
I
anybody.
was like, that's close enough. And then I renamed him a few times. So for a little while he was going to be called Ash, but that felt a little basic to me. And then I tried to call him Baron, which I still like, but I
Yeah.
told some people about it and they were like, so like Baron Trump. I was like, not like Baron
You're like,
Trump,
not
like
at all.
not at
No,
all
no.
like that. um, but like they couldn't get past the association, and so finally he became Damon, like not inspired by the Vampire Diaries, but not unaware of the Vampire Diaries, if that
Sure.
makes sense.
Like
Yeah.
like vibes are there.
Yeah. But it's the same idea. He's like not as quite of a dark character as I typically do. He's more like a reluctant hero character, but like uh, just kind of grumpy, I guess.
I mean, these are all the things we love.
Yes, I'm pleased. I like it. Like of all of the main characters I've ever written, and I love all of my main characters, but I would probably not actually date them. Like
Sure.
if I encountered Scion, I'd be like, not you.
You'd be like,
Uh,
no.
right. But I could see myself actually being interested in
Yeah,
Damon. So
that's
yeah,
fair.
yeah.
Um, so if someone were to stumble upon this book, like once it comes out, what is one thing that you would want them to know about it?
Like before going in,
Mm-hmm.
um, so the spice meter it's like it starts pretty high and then it goes down and then we just like kind of lurk here for a long time, but then it goes way back up again and stays there. So it's like if it's not a slow burn, if you feel like it's not going to happen again, oh, it will. Like, do
Just
you know what I mean?
wait.
Yeah, like yeah, we start because it's a like a one night stand to
Right.
happily ever after thing. So it's like we start high and then we're just way back here for a really long time.
Like
But then it does come back.
when you say the beginning, do you mean like chapter 1?
I mean chapter 4.
Okay. Okay.
So like yeah, like they have to like encounter each other first and that takes a little while and she has to get from her house to the grandmother's house and everything, but then pretty much right there.
That is bold. Like the first 5 chapters are like really what sucks people in. Like I feel like by that point is usually when people are like, okay, is this something I want to read? And I feel like if you've got that in the beginning, you're
Yeah.
really gonna people are gonna grab onto that.
I hope so. I hope they get through like it's I mean, I personally would definitely read the first 5 chapters. You know, it's like I think it's kind of well set up, but it almost feels like it's going to be contemporary and it isn't. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the main character starts out as like a contemporary woman, you know. And so we start with just like her in her life, unaware of everything else. And then it's like kind of like a Narnia thing. Like we, you know, go to the other world and then it's just fantasy from there on out, basically.
Interesting. I mean, I like that kind of thing. It's like portal fantasy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's portal fantasy, but it's like I feel like we don't do that anymore, and so it's not like a full genre, you know.
It is very sad that that's not as much of a thing anymore.
When I was growing up, I feel like every single book was portal fantasy. Like that was just like the whole damn thing. And even if it wasn't like directly a portal fantasy, it was like loose, like Harry Potter or something like that.
Exactly.
You know? And so this fits into that, not Harry Potter, but like the concept.
But like the portal
more so than like what Wild Fae is, which is just high fantasy.
Well, I love that because then you can take contemporary elements and bring it into a fantasy world because the person is from the current times, and so they're like they're questioning everything.
It does make dialogue a lot easier also because like writing dialogue in a high fantasy voice is, I mean, obviously I can do it and I have done it, but it takes like a different like part of my brain to like kind of, you know, make that switch. And this is not like that. It was much easier to just be like, this is what I would say in this scenario, you know?
I love that.
Thank you.
How is A Thorn in Every Heart different from your other projects? Like how do you find them to be different?
Well, I've written a lot of books and they're all different, right?
Sure.
If you like know who I am because of Wild Fae, which I think is most people at this point, I've worked really hard to like, you know, kind of move my career into being just the high fantasy stuff. This is much less complicated. Like a lot of Wild Fae is really political, and this is not that. This is not plot with romance. It's romance with plot. Right. You know,
this is more romantasy versus romantic fantasy.
Correct. Which is something I definitely don't think I understood when I started writing Wild Fae because I'm not really sure how that happened, but I was just, you know, it ended up being more plot heavy than I intended it to be. And then I had to kind of carry that out. And this is not like that, right? You know, like there's not going to be any like, you know, secret whatever, you know. But it's more complicated than by any other name, which is like mostly it's just all vibes, nothing else, you know.
Which we also love.
Yeah, but you know, like this, I don't know. I think this found its like kind of in between place. I will say I think it's the one I'm most excited about.
Okay.
Probably ever. It's definitely taken me the longest. Usually I write a book in like 3 months and just call that acceptable. But I've obviously been working on this for like 2 years.
That's crazy.
And it's
crazy. Yeah. 3 months. That's impressive.
Oh, actually, I'm being so 3 months is actually like longer. That's like my conservative estimate. In reality, I usually write most of my books in about 2 weeks, and then I kind of like mess with them for 3 months.
Okay. So, wow, that's you just like zone in.
Quite literally, like so I can write like about 20,000 words in a day, but only for short bursts.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. So like I can do 100,000 words in like 8 days.
You're like, I will sit down for a couple of hours and I will just knock it out and the rest of the day is my own.
No, the rest of the day I usually sleep. So
Sure.
it's literally like I will wake up, I will go to work, I will do like it's like I don't know, like if you're a surgeon
Yeah.
and something and you're on call 2 weeks and then off 2 weeks, I kind of work like that. Not as important, but similar schedule. And then I don't do anything for a few weeks.
I love that though. That's super impressive.
Thank you. Also super unhealthy, so I don't recommend it or anything. But
Like
like
this
that
is not
is
advice.
no. Like if anyone's ever like, how do I become a writer? Like, what is your process? I'm like, don't listen to me. Like, I'm a mess. But that is what I do.
Like
So
this is what I do. This is not advice. You should do something a little
yeah,
more
don't try this at
balanced,
home.
but
Yeah,
this works for me.
right.
So,
um,
will these character stories end with this book, or is it going to continue on into any future books, or are there going to be like other stories told in the same world type thing?
okay, so without like too many spoilers
Sure.
because it's a little bit complicated, right? But I just had to give my agent the name of like the next four of them.
Okay.
So because we're looking at an audio deal, right?
Sure.
So it's going to be they're standalones about different couples, right? So like the main guy Damon has like these friends, and like all of them they meet in prison, which is like a whole other thing, but it's like fantasy
Got
prison,
it.
not like yeah.
Sure. For
Um,
sure.
and so he has this like group, and they're really loyal to him, and he becomes like the leader
Mhm.
effectively of this little band, and so it's going to be all about each of them, and like their various relationships, and each one is kind of a loose retelling in and of itself.
Okay.
So Damon is obviously the Anastasia Beauty and the Beast one, and then we're looking at like a Little Mermaid slash Cinderella one.
Sure.
There might be a Frozen vibes one. Although
Mhm.
I think I'll have to call it the Snow Queen. I'm not sure I can call it Frozen.
Probably not.
And then and like a Rapunzel one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Those
So
that sounds like really fun retellings too. Like you picked the ones that get people going.
yes. Well, they're the ones that I like, right? So
I mean, you gotta
yeah.
write what you want to read.
I really liked Frozen, even though I was like 21 when it came out. So like that was like formative for me in a way that like it should no longer have been formative. And so now I'm like, this is the one.
I'm a huge fan of Frozen too, so I get it.
Hmm.
And I as a grown adult was like, so who's gonna go with me to see Frozen again in theaters? I don't care. Let's go.
I, I watched Frozen on the floor of my Airbnb during spring break with my sorority and our brother fraternity in like 2013, like trashed out of my mind. And then like later we like watched it again. I was like, oh no, I love like this is it.
This is exactly what I wanted. Thank you.
Right. Yeah.
No, I get it. I
Yeah.
watched it for the first time after I got my wisdom teeth out, and so I was just like sitting there like
So also like out of your mind, but like
exactly.
in a different way.
And I was like, this is really good.
Yes.
So I feel that.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some elements? So this is like a fae story,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So what are some like elements of fae lore that you included,
Oh, good
or
one.
that you're
Okay.
aware of that you included?
No, it's a good question. I'm just like I got to think for a second. So it's so Wild Fae has a lot. I know I keep referencing that, but I'm kind of trying to like draw like the different
Right.
differences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wild Fae has a lot of mythology references that aren't even all necessarily like obvious. It's just like what I know about like mostly like Irish and Welsh fairy lore, right?
Sure.
This is not that. This is like hot guys with wings.
Yeah.
There's like they can and do lie. There's like no weird verbal trickery.
Sure.
It's like the fey elements of this are like kind of cagey.
Right. There's just like they're we're calling it fae, and we're just going off of whatever you want, which
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love.
They're magical people who sometimes have wings.
Say less. I
Thank
think
you.
we've done here. That's all everyone needed to know.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? Like, I just don't want to like drive myself crazy with this. Like, it doesn't have to be that serious. It's just that's what it is.
I love that though, because it means that you really could just kind of do whatever you wanted. If you didn't like decide upon like really strict rules that were like, oh, this is based on this type of fae, and I'm gonna go with these
Yeah.
like rules of what people
Over the
know
years,
and don't.
I've like learned to take myself less seriously and be like, no one cares about like the exact translation that I have done about, you know, like whatever, and no one cares that I've read the Mabinogion, which I have, but it's not good and I don't recommend it. You know, so like I kind of got over it and moved on to like what's just like fun and interesting and, you know, what I enjoy reading, right? Um, I did invent something though. They don't have fated mates, they have soul
I love
bonds.
that.
So
It's different.
it's different. So just the concept is basically like a fated mate. Like I mean, in the like the wording, it like it implies that like some other whatever like picked that person for you ahead of time. This is not that. This is it could be anyone, but once you meet them, you like lock in and like can't stop.
That's it. That's it. End game.
Yes. Right. So it's like almost a free will, but like not quite. Yeah.
You know, I like it.
Thank you.
That's I think that's better because it doesn't imply that like there's no choice, which I think is usually like the criticism with like a fated mate is that like fate decided and you had no say in it.
Right. This is like you could have any like anyone could be your soulmate. A little bit is like timing and you know and whatever. But once you meet them,
That's
there's
it.
exactly that's the end. So I kind of like
Yeah.
that better, but I didn't know what the word for that was, so I made something up. Yeah.
Now, I mean, not that it's that serious, but can you have more than one soul bond? If like your soul bonded dies, could you have another one?
Oh, it's an interesting question. I have not encountered the death thing like in my head yet because it just kind of
It
isn't
doesn't
really
fit
an
your
issue.
story.
Yeah. I think conceptually there could be like like I could end up with a why choose scenario, but not, this book isn't.
Right.
Um and the next one, the second one probably isn't either. Maybe the third. It's kind of in like the back of my head.
You're not there yet.
Yeah.
That's a problem for later.
Right.
For a 2 week period later.
Yeah. Exactly. Now I'm interested though. I'm like, if they die, I feel like no. I feel like it's just the one,
Right.
but I haven't encountered it, so I'm not sure.
Interesting. Will there be multiple points of view, or is it just her POV the whole time?
There's two, so
Okay.
it's her and him, and it's pretty even, back and forth about you know length of actual time that is in their
I
POV.
like that.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. It's the only time I trust a man.
Yeah. It also prevents like the miscommunication trope, I think, in a lot of ways.
Or at least it makes it happen in a way that like the reader knows the truth.
Right.
And so then you're like, it's like, oh, I see what you're doing here. You're both just misunderstanding, but it's okay. You'll work it out.
Yeah, these two don't misunderstand each other. They're just both like difficult. But
Sure.
like, you know, it works out.
I love that.
Thanks.
I love that you're saying that there's no miscommunication because
I,
that's horrible.
yeah, yeah. I'm like now I'm like second guessing. I'm like, is there? But I don't think so. Like, you know, like you have to like really, you would have to work hard to think that that was miscommunication as opposed to just like him being difficult. I don't want to
Right.
ruin it.
Are there any tropes that you included that you feel like people aren't going to love and you wrote them in anyway? This is kind of like related to
Her
this.
husband cheats on her on page.
Okay, that would definitely be something that people might not love.
Yeah. And I couldn't. So this happens in like chapter one. It's not really a spoiler. It's in the
Yeah.
blurb. It says like you know her husband cheats on her.
Yeah.
And at first I had it off page. When I did the first draft, I wrote it so that like the first scene was her realizing that her husband had cheated on her, but like she'd already left the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I got feedback, but also I kind of felt that like it didn't really hit that well, right? Because it was hard to tell like exactly what had happened. And so now within like 2 pages, she like sees her husband cheating on her and like doesn't really do anything. So it's like a character arc moment, right? So it's like she sees this happening and kind of just like runs away,
Right.
as opposed to like
Confronting.
confronting him or
Yeah.
like doing anything, you know. and then like has the thought of like, I don't know why I didn't do something. Should I go back and do something? Is that weird timing? Like, you know, so it's like all of these like kind of thoughts going on at once. And then I will say that like it's kind of a spoiler, but I think it's worth noting that like she does eventually confront him and deal with it eventually. So but yeah, people might be thrown by that, I guess.
I do like that it just, even if it's a baby spoiler, I like that because I feel like there's a lot of those kinds of moments that are set up in the beginning of books that like you never get to circle back to, and you're like, okay, well now they're a different person. They would handle this differently because of all these events, and I want them to deal with that. And I feel
And
like that's a really nice thing.
she does. You know, so it's not like it doesn't get ignored. Like eventually she has to go back to her world for
Reason.
it's complicated, but you know, for reasons. And does end up having to confront him because he's there. You know, and so it like it I think it's pretty satisfying. I think that basically everything that happens that like I would be annoyed by does get resolved. And the reason for that is because I've had a lot more time to flush all of it out and be like, and oh, you know, I should do this, or you know, this is actually something that people are definitely going to care about, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's interesting that like this is, as you said, like it's the first time you've actually had time to like go back and make sure that all of those things are dealt with. And that's,
Yeah, rapid release is a killer for creativity and for satisfying endings. You know, like as somebody who releases a lot of books that are really long, really quickly, because that's just like kind of what you have to do to make it your full-time job, and it is mine. Um, I'm like very aware of the fact that like not everything is perfect the way that I would want it to be if I had more time. And with this one, it worked out better, you
yeah,
know.
because you actually did have time because you were working on something else.
Well, because I'm making enough money from the series that I didn't have time to do it perfectly. That's the reality
You
of
know
that,
what?
you know.
It worked. It worked though.
Yeah.
And people love it. I'm
Yeah,
people.
I'm like I'm not saying like it's bad. I'm just saying like, you know, like
Yeah.
if I could go back and do some things differently in every other series, I think I would. But the reason I'm able to do this is because of those, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
Thanks.
Um I have some, did put a question box up when
Oh,
I was talking
okay.
about the live, and I do have a couple of questions that I got on here.
Okay.
Can we expect any quote delicious pet names in the Enchanted Legacies?
He calls her Peaches. So
Okay.
go with me. So when they first meet, it's in the human world, and he has come there. Well, I don't even know if this is a spoiler. It's just the plot, you know.
Yeah.
It's so like he has been sent by the king from his world to look for not Alex but Isabel,
Right.
who is the grandmother.
Right.
Right. So he's like the messenger, the soldier who's like supposed to go find her. And he meets Alex in a bar and he's never met Isabel, so he doesn't really realize that they look alike. He doesn't know
Sure.
who she is, whatever. And she's wearing like a Princess Peach T-shirt that she bought at the airport after escaping the situation with her husband, and it says "delicious" like peaches and cream.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So like the whole idea is like she knows she looks stupid because she had to buy this weird shirt. He doesn't really know what the shirt is because he's not from there, and he's like, "Is this a suggestion? Is like what?" You know, like what is it, like advertisement? Like what are we
Like,
doing here? You know?
oh, interesting. That's a choice. That's a
Yeah,
choice you
right.
made.
So that's like how they like end up even talking, you know, because he's like, "What is, you know,
What's
what is
happening
this?"
on your shirt?
Right? Yeah.
um, okay. Who would be on your Hear Me Out cake? Who are some people that would be, or characters that would be featured on your Hear Me Out cake?
Oh, hang on.
Left field.
No, oh, it's not even that. It's just like now, like, I don't know. Are like, is there any like parameters of that?
No.
Like,
No parameters. Free for all.
all right, give me a second. Let me work through that. Um, I don't feel like I ever had like a crush on a character that wasn't like at least like humanoid. You know what I mean?
That's that's very normal of you. I love that.
I'm and now, see, okay, we're gonna end up leaving this and I'm like, oh, I got it, you know.
I take it
Um,
back.
Ask me another one. We'll circle
Okay.
back. I'm really gonna work on it.
You percolate on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone did ask if there were any crossovers with Wild Fae in terms of the world, like the Fae realm.
Kind of. So I wish I had had a map physically to
Sure.
show you, but so the continent that Wild Fae takes place on is organized in a politically different way, right?
Sure.
So they have an entire continent with arguably 6 countries, but the countries are like city states, and then the main they rule over the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is not like that. So this logistically they take place kind of to the left. So
Okay.
The island of Nevermore, which is one of their city states, is in between, and then they're right over here. So it would be actually there's kind of nothing in the world that looks like that, but the it's close enough that okay, if there was another place on the opposite side of the UK,
Yeah.
and then to Europe, it would be
Okay.
that. So they're aware of each other, but they're again politically really different, so they're not friends. And Ellender, which is the whole continent, has 4 separate independent countries on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of, I mean, I know you're saying is there a crossover? No, they they exist in the same world, kind
Yeah.
of, right? And so it wouldn't be impossible that there could be some vague crossover. I kind of had planned for maybe the characters from Wild Fae to appear somewhere in the book, but it just doesn't really work.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I
have not found a spot where it would make any sense that they would be in the same place. And also kind of timeline wise, right. It's a little weird. Wild Fae is supposed to take place in 1912.
Sure.
It's not, it's here, but technically, if we were to go to the other world, it's earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're just really old.
Sorry, that was a really long roundabout answer to nothing, but it's just
so canonically it's the same Fae world. It's not separate universe.
They are all across the veil. Sure. There's kind of no word for what they are. Actually, there's a point where Alex, the main character, talks about it. She's like, is this string theory? Are we in the same world? Are we next to the world? Are we in the same timeline? And they're like, don't even worry about it, it's fine.
You're thinking too hard about it, just accept it.
Yeah, so it's over here, it's to the side, but then they have all of their own separate continents and countries.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
If you were to uncover a dark secret in your own family, what would you want it to be? What? If it was a fictional dark secret in your family, is there a dark secret you would want to uncover? Be like, oh, this is my own fairy tale.
Does it have to be realistic?
No.
I always really wanted a twin.
Okay.
So
a secret
I feel
twin.
Secret twin, but I always wanted them to be identical too. I had sister aspirations.
Yes.
I don't think I would having magical powers.
Too much power.
One time I realized that if people could fly, I probably wouldn't, because technically I can run, but I don't do that either.
It's so valid.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I would secret money. I would secret something, but
yes, secret money
dark
would be my ideal as well.
Yeah, a dark secret. I don't know.
This has to do with the twin. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think that would have to be the whole thing.
Okay, so circling back to your book specifically, do you make playlists? And if so, do you have a specific song in mind for your main characters?
I do make playlists, but I don't make them for me. I make them for readers. You know what I mean? So Yeah, so like I know that playlists are a thing that people are interested in, so I do sit around and like cultivate a playlist for each book, but I don't listen to music while writing. I can't. It's a hard no. So I don't, it's not like for me, you know. And but it wouldn't be for each character. Sometimes I think about it like if there was a soundtrack to a movie where the song would fit in a scene.
Sure.
Um and I just think about it like that. And this one does have a playlist, but I'm not really done with it. I'm kind of like,
Still
adding
fixing it.
stuff. Yeah, like as I think of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any characters or scenes that you had in the original draft that you wish you could have kept?
Hmm.
Or if there's anything you can tell us about those?
I'm thinking without spoilers.
Sure.
There's one character that I thought was going to be so like I had already like conceived of every character that was going to be in the world. Oh, actually, like there's art of this, you can see it. If you look at the art of like all the characters, there's like the girl with the short brown hair and the pink
Okay.
outfit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was going to be a much bigger character in this book than she is. She's in it, but like as like a very minor kind of side point. But I know so much about that character, and like she's going to be a pretty big deal eventually, but like just not. It's just not kind of happening right now, right? And it didn't fit. It was like too much of a like a side quest, you know.
Yeah.
That just didn't really have anything to do with like the main couple, and it was just like kind of othered, right? So I'm gonna just move that to its own thing. I know that's a hard thing to explain without giving
I
anything
think
away, but that's
that
what it
makes
is.
sense, though.
Yeah. I had like a spicy scene that I wrote independently of the rest of the narrative because I was like, I had an idea and I
Mm-hmm.
went with it, and I can't make it fit. Um, so like, and it's I'm like, does anyone care? Like, it's just like random, whatever. But it doesn't quite work. So
Giving bonus chapter.
what it is there's like a so it's worth understanding that this entire book takes place at night. It's always night,
Okay.
um, because they're cursed during the day. So they have like
Okay. Yeah.
switched their schedule around. So they wake up at like 5 p.m. And they live in they've moved their whole world to a climate where the days are pretty short. So they sleep for these like 8 hours where they're cursed usually, like
Mm-hmm.
there's some error, but like that's the idea. And then they like wake up at 5 and then like rock and roll through the evening, right? And so like when they have dinner it's like 3 a.m. And I
Got it.
always have to remind the reader of that in like every single scene because I know it's not natural to think that it's dark, but it's always dark,
Okay.
right? So that's worth understanding. But then they have this festival that happens like 12 times a year. I'm
I
sorry,
was like,
every
oh.
12 years. No, every 12 years,
Hmm.
where there's like a solar eclipse. So it's dark the whole time.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
And so they have this like party. I knew this from the beginning. That is still the way that the book goes. That is still the plot. However, originally I wanted the first time that the main character and the guy like got together to be like vaguely public sex in the dark while everyone else is having a party like right here,
Sure.
right?
As one does.
And I was like, beautiful, excellent idea. I write this out and I cannot get it to work, because it doesn't make any sense because they've already hooked up a lot by that point.
And so you're like, cool, cool.
Yeah,
This doesn't make any sense. I can see why it couldn't be a bonus chapter because it doesn't make
it
sense
makes
in
no
the story.
sense, none.
Well,
So
now you have that just for you, just for your eyes.
I mean, I don't know. There's still some time, right? I could still kind of like try to shoehorn it in there. Like it's so good, and yet, it's just there's just no logic to it. You'll see what I mean when you get it.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, thank you.
How long does is the story like not like pages? I'm talking like how long do the events take?
A month.
Like roughly a month.
Um,
So it's
pretty
all
specific. Pretty specifically. So the it kind of starts with the king, going to this prison where his like former commander is with his buddies. They've all been like banished from various places to this prison, and the prison is giving like. Do you watch Stranger Things?
yes.
Okay, so like you know when they're in like the ice prison in
Yeah.
Russia, it's just that's like it's I'm not even trying to pretend that that's not
Okay.
exactly what it
You were
is,
like,
like,
I
right?
just in my brain, we were in Stranger
No,
Things in the ice
I
prison in Russia.
literally like looked up that scene on YouTube. I was like, I know what I'm thinking of, but like what does it look like? That's it. Yeah. So they're in this like ice prison. He's been there in the ice prison for 90 years.
Oh my
Um
gosh.
yeah, it's rough. And like they can't die because they're fae, but they do get cold, right? So it's
Sure.
like it's unpleasant, you know, they're not happy. The king goes there and he's like, look, I'll get you out of prison and like restore your lands and your titles and whatever, and like you can even take your friends, I don't care, but you have to go find me Isabel,
Hmm.
right? And so it starts there. I've forgotten the initial question now that I'm explaining the ice prison thing, but
I don't even remember the original question. I was just like, yeah, this is
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's very visual, like
Oh,
everything in the
the
book, like
timeline. That's what it
oh,
was.
oh, right. Sorry. So the reason he even shows up is because there's like a month left. The curse lasts 100 years. It's been like 90 years and 11 months, and like they can't figure out how to break it. So he's like, all right, look, like you know, you can have everything back, but you have to also like break the curse for me by finding this woman who's missing.
Really cutting it close there. He was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it. We're gonna wait till the
He
last minute.
he that is addressed. He has tried other times to break it, but it's just like not going well. And so he wants to find this woman who got away from him like 60 years
Got
ago. Yeah.
it. That is. I'm very excited. Like every little little tidbit I get, I'm like, oh,
I
I can't wait to see. Because to me, like, there's as long as there's not like, and then this happened, and then this happened. I'm like, I don't find it to be a spoiler because I'm like, oh, I'm excited about figuring out how that works into the story.
That's how I think of it too, but like I don't want to like I don't know. I don't want to offend anyone who is really spoiler sensitive, you know.
We
But I
probably
could talk about this
shouldn't be
like
listening to this though.
that's true. Yeah, but like I could talk about this endlessly. I love the world. There's just a lot of like kind of sensory detail to it, and like the darkness. I like the darkness. I think it's you know it makes it like thematic and like there's good ambiance. You know,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and it fits like I don't know. I've managed to fit like basically every trope I could think of. It like that wasn't like you know weird in there. So
I
yeah,
yeah. Which would you say like there's a top three favorite tropes that you included?
I'm thinking. Hang on.
Sure.
Um, so the main kind of thing is it's like a bodyguard
Mhm.
romance, right? So he like um he has to follow her around like all day, every day. And he sleeps on the floor outside her room, which I don't know if that's a trope, but I love that. Like
If it's not, it should be.
yeah. Yeah, like I don't know. I very specifically was like, I know what I want. I want him to sleep on the floor like a dog. You know, like it's just like he doesn't even get a bed. There's no one bed. He's like
He
he's
gets the
really committed.
floor.
Yeah. Um, so there's that. I don't know. Let me think. There's there is one horse at one
Okay.
point. Um, I don't know. I feel like one horse like gets like you know blown up into like being like a bigger deal than it is. That happens, you know.
Sure.
Um, they go to an inn, and I think it feels like it's going to be a one bed scenario, but it isn't.
He sleeps on the floor.
The well, that's later. But she has nightmares and he has to like break into like help
Hmm.
her with them
That's a
and
trope for
such.
sure.
That is definitely a trope. Yeah. It's not actually one that I typically like, but it fits so well into this. I just had to like completely roll with it because again it's an Anastasia thing and you know like when she's like standing on the edge of the boat like about
Yeah,
to like she has nightmares so
sure.
it makes sense. I don't know what else is in there. Mm, I'm sure I can come up with something. She basically never wears clothes in front of him. There's like just like a constant reason that she's not clothed.
You know,
Um,
as one does.
yeah. So and then like she's aware of it. She's like, how is this continuously happening? You know, so
That seems like very specific circumstances need to keep happening in order for that to take place
I
repeatedly.
think I've made it make sense. Like, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's not out of nowhere. You know?
Sure. So I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, I have no clothes. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Oh, well, oh, no, wait, I got one. Okay.
Okay.
She, have you seen me like posting all of these things about the Beauty and the Beast, the French one with the ice?
Yes.
Okay. So oh, I don't want to tell the whole thing, but basically, there's like a touch her and die moment, and
Sure.
and he like fights this guy, right? But she's not like a fantasy world person. She's like a regular like 30-year-old woman, right? And she's like, oh, that's horrifying. So now she's afraid of him, kind of briefly, and
Sure.
she like bails, right? Which I think tracks, right? Like if you
As a
like, and it's from her
30-year-old woman, if I
POV.
saw something, I'd be like, I gotta go.
Right. So I'm like writing this from like how I would feel
Yeah.
about it, right? So yeah, so basically he does something incredibly violent and she's like, "Oh my god, like sociopath." She leaves and he like chases her. She ends up like going out onto like the ice, right? And then there's this like ice moment and then she falls in. Okay. And then he's like trying to bring her back to her room and he like put her in the bathtub. She's like, I can't get in a bathtub. I'll have a heart attack, which is true. If you fall through ice and then you get immediately too warm, you will have a heart attack.
I learned something new
And
every day.
yeah, so, or like best case scenario, all your blood vessels will burst, which is really painful. So she's like, gets all of her clothes off, like gets in the bed and he's like, what do I do? She's like, you have to get in here with me. So, which
I need
does
your
make
body
sense because
heat.
that is what you would have to do.
Okay, so what did this research process look like for you? Did you
Oh,
just
for
know a
all
whole bunch
that?
of stuff, or did...
I just knew the ice thing. Like, I mean, I'm from New England,
Okay,
like if you're like a kid and you've ever been ice skating in New England, which I did a lot, like you've probably heard at some point, like, what do you do if you fall through the ice? You know? So that part I just knew. But let's see, I had to do a lot of research on trains. I
okay.
know,
What
but it's
about trains?
okay
I'm
because there are a
so
lot of
curious.
people. There are a lot of people who make YouTube videos that are very specific about trains. So it was fine. Um, but well, because
Because
in
Anastasia,
Anastasia,
yeah,
it's just that.
got it.
That is just the whole thing. But I realized it was like hard to write that scene because I didn't know anything about trains. So I'm like, in my head, I'm just like Hogwarts expressing it, and I'm like, well, they're in
Apartment,
this place, and then they walk into the other cabin, and like it wasn't
yeah.
working. So I had to like get really technical about like what does a train even look like. Um, And yeah, so I did that. Also about like what a locomotive does because it is just not nearly as fast as the kind of train that I would think of. So
That is fascinating.
yeah, I mean like it is and it isn't, right? Like I think it doesn't read like a train manual,
Right.
but in order to even write the scene, I had to understand it.
Which is interesting then, because like obviously none of the readers are going to, well, maybe some of the readers, but most readers are not going to be trained experts. But
No,
there does have to be that element of like, I know what I'm talking about and I'm explaining it to you in a clear way that even if you don't know why I'm using this very technical term, it makes sense to you.
there. I didn't really use any technical terms. It was more like until I understood like what the inside of a train even looks like and like in a coal like locomotive how you can't even just like walk into the front the way that you could in like a plane, right? Like
Right.
in my head it was like you'd be able to like walk into the cockpit of the train and that is simply inaccurate. Right, so I had to understand it to even know where like people were
Got
standing,
it.
because otherwise it doesn't like you can't picture it. And sometimes I wonder if I'm over explaining things because I'm like incredibly visual, and so I really notice of an author like it doesn't make sense where people are standing in the room. So like maybe I'm overdoing it, but I think better than underdoing it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's better for everyone to make sense than someone to accidentally just like appear in front of you and you're like, where did you come from? You were not
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. That I'm so sensitive to that in books. I'll be like, it doesn't make sense. And then I can't, I just can't do it. Yeah.
Do you find that to be difficult or easy to do in like spicy scenes? It's especially, I know this isn't a White Shoes, but like especially in White Shoes, but like where you're trying to like choreograph where everyone is and how they got from point A to point B. Even in a like
Um,
even in just like a two-person relationship, I feel like that's still
Not anymore. Like, so I mean, I've been doing this for a while, and I remember like early on, I was really uncomfortable writing sex scenes, like just really uncomfortable. And I don't really know why. Like it wasn't even really the content. It
yeah.
was just like I mean, if you have to write the word clit over and over again, you start to wonder like what you're even doing with your life. You know what I
Like,
mean?
wow,
So
I'm
it
doing
was like
this for a job.
right. So
I'm a
like it was hard.
professional.
And because I wasn't comfortable with it, I think that it was like easier to kind of like mess up where people were because it would get disjointed, right?
Mhm.
I used to have to draw diagrams,
I'm sure that made you
but
super comfy.
very, yeah. So like my husband would come into my office and be like, what is this stick figure model? Like, what are you doing? But now I don't have to. Now I can kind of just rock and roll. I wrote so right now I'm in the process of like, I'm like 4 days late getting it to the editor because I've been like kind of changing some stuff around, and I just wrote a 6,000 word sex scene, which is, for context, that would take over an hour to listen to on an audiobook.
I'm very curious about this now,
Uh,
but I'm like,
Me too. I was like, oh,
dang, they're marathoning.
yeah, that was like 3 Red Bulls and an Adderall, and then all of a sudden we had like this whole like thing.
Sure. Okay, choreographing, that's what it was. How do you have to do anything to like get in the mindset of writing a spicy scene?
No.
You're just like, oh, no, it makes sense right here. I'm good to go.
Mostly it's just like I tend to write pretty linear, right? So I get messed up if I write something like out of sequence, and I will always end up spending 3 times the amount of time trying to make it fit into the sequence, like the spicy scene I was mentioning. Then if I just went, front to back. With the spicy scenes, it's literally just like, okay, like this is the next bit, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm yeah. I'm trying to think if there's like anything else to it, but like no, like there's not. It's just I have really intense noise canceling headphones. I have the like the AirPod Max, which are like too expensive for life, but also like I never knew what silence was until I had those.
Like you can hear your
And
thoughts. You can hear your brain.
yep. Yeah, I like there's no longer the sound of like air
Which
in like the house.
you wouldn't know that you could just hear air until you can't hear it.
Exactly. So yeah, so I really like the full immersion. But yeah.
Did you just sit in silence then? It's just silence?
Oh, when I'm writing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I sit in absolute complete silence, and I'll get it. I have this thing, which is, it's a pillow desk,
Oh,
right?
okay.
I usually use this chair actually. Now I have 2 real desks. I have a standing desk and a sitting desk, and I don't like them. So I use my pillow desk usually in this exact chair, which is my preferred chair, and that's it. Yeah, I just total silence.
And your laptop in a dream.
Yep. But I don't know. I'm trying to come up with things that like I have to do, but it's kind of just what it is.
I guess when you've been doing it for long enough, you can just make it happen.
Yeah. Yes, there definitely used to be more of a ritual to it. It used to be harder to like get words on the page. It's just not like that anymore. It's like if you've been doing like a desk job for a while, it's kind of just
Just to like wrap this up, is there anything else that you want to share about the release, about anything coming up for it, any other details that haven't come up in this conversation that you were dying to share?
There's the pre-order incentives.
Okay.
So I wish I had them physically, but I don't. But there's like 2 pieces of art, and one is like sweet and one is very spicy. I actually drew them. I have a lot of art for this book anyway. Like there's like a lot done by other people, and then a lot done by me just out of like kind of me having a time with it. So there's those 2, and you can get like a book plate. So basically, like if you pre-order, even if you pre-order the ebook, because I just don't feel like making a distinction, you just fill out the form and you can get those sent to you. And I'm probably going to send them before the book technically comes out, because I want people to be able to post about it, like if they want to.
Right. Like like it comes out, here's the book, here's the stuff.
Yeah, so I feel like if they, if they've ordered the book to arrive on the day that like the release is, or whatever they want the stuff, I'm probably going to send them out early, which is sort of a gamble because then you could technically just cancel your pre-order. But I feel like most people won't, like.
I feel like, especially if your pre-order incentive is not something that's like a book or like something that's like like thanks for the book plate and the art that I haven't read the book for.
Right. Yeah, so I don't think anyone's going to cancel, and if someone does, I mean, few and far between. But yeah, the order link is in my bio. Someone just asked, and as is the pre-order incentive link.
Excellent.
So there's that. And then, yeah, and then arcs are coming out. I'm sending them physically. Do I have an example of the box?
Okay.
Maybe. Um, not without standing up.
You're
But it's like a kind of almost a PR box. It's like kind of somewhere in between.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think those are like the things that I needed to say though.
Amazing.
But also, like, I'm sending out 1,000 arcs.
You have a better chance of a lot more reviews that way, though.
I got over 2,000 people asked for them. And
Wild.
I was like, oh, that's never happened. Like, for context, I sent out 130 arcs for the first Wild Fae and like 500 for like the most popular of that series. So this is wild. And so I had to cap it somewhere. So I stopped at 1,000.
I mean, congratulations.
That's
amazing.
Thank you. I mean, I'm excited. But most of them, those are e-arcs. I'm only doing 50 physical ones. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Still, like, a lot.
That's still a lot. That's gonna be a lot of work for you. Are you gonna assemble all that stuff yourself?
Probably, because again, it's not that complicated, right? So it's like the box, and then it has some kind of like little goodies in it, but it's not like a full PR box. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like a kind of a fancier way to send the physical arc. And you're getting one, so we can talk about it then.
And I will be like, this is the most beautiful thing because I already know you send out beautiful books, beautiful boxes.
I'm hoping that the art is done. Have you seen the thing about how there's different art for each chapter?
Yes. I am so excited about that. Did you draw that?
No. You're like,
no.
Mostly I wouldn't have time. Like, the way that like it takes me to draw something, I'll draw like one picture, like maybe a month, maybe. Sure. But no, so those ones are all done by Emma Novel, I believe is how it's pronounced, or Bovell. Oh God, I'm awful. I'll send it afterwards.
No. No worries, yeah. I am the worst with names.
But they have been doing an amazing job, and especially with me like giving them like briefs of each chapter, and then they have to come up with like what the picture is. I'm hoping that all the pictures will be done before the arcs come out, but I'm not positive that they will. So it could end up being something where it's only in the full mm-hmm. book, or it's like half and half. The edges are not going to be on the arcs. There's just no time.
Right.
But we'll see. I'm hoping that it'll work out.
That's amazing. It sounds like it's gonna, like you put a lot of like details and a lot of love into it.
I did. I'm hoping it like turns around and like works out for me, right? Because it's always a gamble to do like a lot of these things. These are really expensive things to do, right? So I'm hoping that it works. Although I felt a lot better because it looks like I'm gonna have already sold the audio. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm very excited for you.
Thank you. That's probably it, but now I'm trying to think the Hear Me Out cake. I've been like percolating.
You're like, no, I really want to know.
I can't think of anything that's like actually not just like a character. Sure. Like, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What's yours?
So, Kovu from The Lion King 2.
Okay, but that's not even weird. No, like, I see that.
It's an animal. I mean, like, obviously there's like the stallion from Spirit.
No, you know what? Okay, fine. Here's something. Okay. When I was watching The Lion King recently, which I had not seen it. I saw it once when I was like 6. Called it a day and I was good. And I was like, is Scar a daddy?
He is.
And my husband was like, what? And I'm like, is it weird that I'm into the like propaganda dance? And he was like, yes. So there you go.
Okay. You know what?
Yeah, and I'm like, I think I just like dark characters, or like, and like queer coded villains. Like both of these really work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
So that was that there. That's a real one. There you go. But that's recent. That isn't even from like a long
That's
time
okay.
ago.
It still counts.
Yay!
I'm so glad we're leaving off on that note.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Yeah, we should. Well, we'll chat again maybe when you get the art.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, well, you have a great night.
You too. All right, talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.